Welcome. My name is Julie Gilbert, and I'm a partner with Leap by McKinsey. Thrilled and delighted to be here with you today, bringing together women across the world in tech, women founders inside big businesses, and also women founding businesses on the outside. I happen to be one of all of that, and a new profile at McKinsey. Thrilled and delighted to be engaging One Tech World Conference with all of you on a global basis. My role at McKinsey is to be a key igniter in helping CEOs around the world for the best companies that we have the privilege of partnering with to build businesses, live action, stand them up after we do the strategic design of those businesses. We've done over 250 this past year alone, and that number continues to soar. Thrilled today to bring you some information, some paradoxical data that I think you're going to be surprised about, some that's going to disappoint you, and in that disappointment, what I want to bring is the how we overcome that, and together as one group of women and men in the space of business building and tech, over deliver to break through some of the challenges that face us in the world today. So first off, you may know this. If you don't, women are responsible for $30 trillion in yearly consumer spend. I'm going to take a pause right there because what I want you to think about is how far we've come in that space of actually having the documentation around our spend, which 20 years ago, when I did the transformation to the female consumer at Best Buy, we didn't have any data like this. It was all just basically a trial and error trying to understand what was happening with females and their spending power. And to have this kind of quantifiable data today is really foundational in everything we're trying to do around business building as a whole, the consumers and the segmentation that we attach to those businesses that we're building. As I pause on this, I want to actually lift up an incredible woman who you may know of, and if you don't, I encourage you to go do a little bit of research on her. Her name is Grace Hopper, and in 1944, taking a pause there, she actually is responsible for creating the early foundations around computing. She designed the Mark I computer. She's also responsible for the compiler, something that we could not survive today in the world of computing without. And then thirdly, she's the one who came up with the term bugging or debugging programs. And that comes from her experience as a rear admiral in the Navy. So I want to lift her up today, completely broke through the glass of 1944. You don't hear much about her, but we really should spend today, at least today, if not think about her throughout the year when we run up against little challenges and realize what she must have gone through to actually achieve those kinds of advancements for computing and tech and frankly business building. So by 2028, women will control 80% of discretionary spend. And I also want you to think about that. If we went and did a little bit more research on that, it's going to be quick to our fingertips to find out that 80% of decisions in healthcare are made by women. 80% and higher of almost every consumer product is made or has significant influence by women. That cuts across every spectrum and every sort of industry vector. And so I think from a standpoint of our voices and having a unique perspective on the world of business building, it's crucial that we actually step into the chair and make sure that we're igniting a vision that includes the female perspective. The third piece of data, and I'm going to go into a bit more on this, new businesses led by women are more likely to succeed. This is brand new research that we just did here at McKinsey. I'm going to dig into the details on that a little bit more, but I do want you to take a pause on that because this is almost like discovering a new piece of land in the world. We have never had this kind of proven data that women that are leading businesses are more likely to succeed and frankly more likely to get higher outcomes than their peer group. And then the second piece of that is diverse boards are more likely to select women to lead new businesses, which if you sit back and think about that in the chair on a Friday night, that does tend to make some sense because we're looking for diversity because we completely understand what it feels like to have our voice heard and the different business models that can be created as a result of that truly inclusive environment. 4 in 5 business leaders prioritize new business building as a means to protect against disruption. We all know what's happened coming out of COVID and some of the fast forward that has happened around digital and the requirements of having a truly digital business to propel the organization. That is as it is, but 4 out of 5 business leaders, CEOs and C-suite leaders are saying the only way that we survive going forward is to truly have a capability inside to do organic business build. So 81% is the number you see on the right-hand side of the consumer expectations to protect against industry disruptions and frankly to meet the demand for truly sustainable products and services. And this is the case across the globe. So all regions are increasingly prioritizing new business building. Europe, North America, developing markets, including China, India, Latin America. And you can see 26% of those organizations are saying, hey, this is at the top end of our spectrum around strategic thinking. The CEO focus, so honing in specifically to that corner office, or in this world, like the side piece of the living room where the CEO is actually doing their work. New business building is even more important to CEOs than others in the C-suite, with nearly a quarter naming it as their top strategic priority. 24% of CEOs are saying new business building, meaning organic businesses built inside their organization, is a top strategic priority. As we think about that, for those of you like myself who came up through corporate ranks, I was a SVP at Best Buy and in charge of the growth engine for Best Buy. This is very different than having an innovation capability in the company, which is great. But this is actually saying, no, we want to create highly disruptive growth that's sustainable for years and years, and yet has high margins included and something that can't be easily disintermediated by a competitive engine. That's really challenging. That's why we're in this. We love this kind of challenge. We love being on the tip of the sword. We love people saying it can't be done. I've never been more energized by someone telling me, you can't do it, Julie. It can't be done. And you know what? We find a way. That's what we as women do. So 24%, your CEO, if you're in corporate and you're thinking about, I want to make a shift into this area, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how you might network your way to he or she to actually make this a reality for your career if you're not there yet. Women-led businesses, we talked about this before, they outperform their peers by 10%. And we all know what that means. Women-led businesses outperform the guys by 10%, yet new businesses are not doing enough to prioritize diversity. So if you think about this as a whole, we are dominating the spend. We're responsible for the trillions I talked about earlier. We are outperforming business builds. And yet what I'm going to share with you in a minute is that we're very much not represented at the levels we should be given all of this amazing data. That's the paradox. That's what we have to fix as a team. Women-led businesses perform better than the rest, and yet women remain underrepresented in new business building leadership. I've spoken about this a bit earlier. What I was getting at is if you think about the earlier data points that I presented, we're talking about the trillions that women represent in terms of commercial spend. We're talking about the influence rate, 80% across all spheres of influence around their purchasing power. We're talking about the fact that women, we've now been able to prove that women who are leading business building or leading companies outperform their peers. They outperform the guys on getting the outcomes financially for the organization, for the board, for the market trajectory. And yet, we're underrepresented as a comparative set when you look at how many new business builds are led by men and how many new business builds are led by women. Globally, the share of women in executive or senior management roles is 23 and 29% respectively. So we've got some work to do here, ladies and gentlemen, because it takes both of us working together to change this. And why wouldn't we do that when we know by doing that, based on the data, that we're going to get a much higher market share, we're going to get a much higher financial outcome for the organization. Diverse boards. Diverse boards are more likely to select women to lead new businesses. So let's think about how does that impact how you might think about your daily endeavors. I'll tell you how it makes me think about mine. So when I'm looking at a new client, and potentially I've got 6 clients that I could go spend time, because it takes a lot of dedicated time, to present the most highly disruptive growth ideas and partner with them to do a collaborative build. I look at their board. I go Google their board for all 6. And what am I looking for? What do you think I'm looking for? I'm looking for diversity. And why would I do that? Well, I would do that because if I'm going to spend this kind of dedicated time and passion and energy, and we're going to drop tech teams on the ground and we're going to light up the go-to-market plan, I want this thing to win, and I want it to win big. And when you look at the diversity on their board, if I don't see any diversity, or I see maybe one female, or I see one person of color, and that's it, what my experience base has been is that they're not likely to be up for that kind of change management, that kind of risk taking, that kind of let's take it all, let's make it happen, Julie, let's drive this out, and let's truly get this outcome for our organization and for the board and for our shareholders. And so it's an easy cut for me to just say, hey, let's do a preliminary look and let's just see out of these 6, which one is most likely, based on everything else I know, to have the highest likelihood to win. And that's the one I'm going to lean into from a change management standpoint, because they truly did see to the point that they made it a point to actually diversify their board. New business boards that are more representative are more likely to select a diverse candidate to run the new business. So I know this just makes perfect common sense. But when you think about it a little bit more and you say, gosh, if I want to have the opportunity to run one of these new businesses, or I want to lead, I want to be a CIO in an organization, or I want to go outside, frankly, and I want to run my own startup, and I want to go get angel investors to invest in me, this is a slide that we should all be thinking about. New business boards that are more representative, that have more diversity, are more likely to select a diverse candidate to run the business. So when you think about that, you can ponder for a moment and understand that without representation on the new businesses board, it's obviously extremely unlikely that a diverse candidate will ever be selected to run that new business, because they probably don't see it. It's not intentional. It's under the surface, and they don't see the likelihood of this being someone they should actually seek out. And sometimes I know we've all been in the conversations where they say, well, we can't find them. We can't find the women founders. We can't find the women in tech. Well, they're out there, and if you need any help, let me know, because I've got a pretty good network to get to access to anyone we need to actually help propel this forward. But the truth is, it's smart business. It's not just a nice thing to do. It's going to drive the outcomes that we're looking for based on all the research we've already shared. Diverse leadership teams of a new business are more than 2 times likely to select a diverse CEO. That's pretty awesome. 2 times as likely to select a diverse CEO. So when you're thinking about what that looks like for people of color, for female, you can see the power there. And women actually have a little bit of a lean on this one compared to people of color. But the truth is, we need help to lift all boats in this space and get more people of color and more females in position, in the driver's seat, at the steering wheel of that race car to drive this incredible growth forward. Allyship is critical. Every single thing I've shared with you is underpinning the criticality of having allies, having sponsors. Why is this important? Well, for a couple reasons. One, it's extremely lonely when you're a founder running a business anyway. You're taking all the risk, which I love. You're taking all of the, don't think it can happen, Julie. Not sure we can make the financials. Not sure this MVP is going to lift. Not sure that every value proposition element is going to really have that tiger speed to match up against the pain points of the customer research that we've done. It really can be a challenge. The truth is, what gets you over those humps every single time is reaching out to your allies and saying, hey, this happened. What do you think? What am I seeing here that you might see something different? I want to be a founder of a business. How many of you have actually said that to someone who is in a position to open the door and pull you right through the door to put you in the seat of that race car? That's the key. Sometimes we as women stand back and hope that by piling up work after work after work, I've done it in my career, that at the end of the day, someone will take notice. That's not how it works. It's all about building strategic networks. It's about allyship. It's about giving to them and they will give to you. It's everything you learned in kindergarten. That's what this is about. And you have to be deliberate and you have to be focused on spending that time to build those networks. And you will be happier with your job. That's what the data says. You will recommend the company as a great place to work. We know that from the data. And you won't get burned out because you'll take the time because your sponsor network will say, hey, Julie, maybe you should take a personal day. Maybe you should just step out, go do something that's fun for you, jump on the ski slopes, burn it down to the end of the hill, go jump in your favorite car, listen to your favorite music. It's amazing what just one day of doing that does for you and how much that refills your tank, I'm telling you right now, you're expected to do that. Because if you don't, you're letting down the whole team, you're letting down the people you lead, and you're letting down the organization that you're working for. Key takeaways. We've covered a lot of ground here. I hope you got something out of this that's really, really helpful. But 3 things on this slide. 1, new business building has never been more important. We talked about the data. We talked about how CEOs view it. That's incredibly important. The second thing we talked about is experience counts and the criticality and the proven data that females get higher outcomes when we're in the driver's seat driving forward business builds. There's no excuse. The data's there. All you need to do is build your allies to make sure that they know that you are qualified and you're fired up and you know that you've got what it takes to drive that business forward. And that's the missing piece that I find many women don't do, is that piece. And at the end of the day, everybody wins on this. The rest of these bullets that we're talking about on this key takeaway are all about how the company propels forward. We do breakthrough, game-changing financial builds and businesses that truly not only get the accretive growth for the organization, but I hope that they also, if we're really smart as we think about this, which I didn't present this data, but we've got it, women actually think more so and are more strategic about some of the impacts to the earth, to education, to other areas when we're building businesses to also bring that take back. At the end of the day, we're in it together, ladies. And gentlemen, we're all in it together. So the last thing I wanted to lead on is 3 key takeaways for you. We've presented a tremendous amount of information and data. There's more where that came from, but highlighting those key points that we talked about earlier today, the 3 things I want you to think about, just ponder and think about. And if you can take action on any one of these, that would be ideal. Find those great, authentic colleagues who give you energy. Every time you talk to them for 2 minutes or you go to dinner with them, you come out with more energy, more momentum, more I can make it happen feelings than anyone else that you meet with. And of course, I'm sure you're helping them with what they're trying to do too, but invest in them and they will invest in you. Make sure they know your desires to be the CIO. Make sure they know your desires to start to do a new organic build inside the company. Make sure they know that and say, how can you help me to accomplish that, to get to where I need to do? How do you help me create the visibility around my talents, what I've done before, so that everyone knows that I am the right person for this job? I know I can drive it forward. And your inner circle needs to include the trusted friends and colleagues that represent what I just described. Number 2, trust your leadership instincts on how you treat people. At the end of the day, everything we do is about people. It's not the what we do, it's the how we do it. And I'm going to say that again. It's not the what we do. It's always the how we do it. And you can do anything as long as people are at the forefront of that. And think about you sitting in the seat across from yourself with every conversation you have, reinforcing them, thinking about someone who just went through something painful. Reach out on text. How are you doing? It takes no time. And it's the right thing to do. And it also is key to really creating a significant lift in the business because everyone feels like they're part of your team and your family. And make sure you do it with an insatiable intention on the customer need and pain points. If you knock that out of the park and you create solutions that don't exist and you create a pathway from what exists today to pull in those customers into your new solution, it's a home run. It's going to be a home run. I guarantee you it. It's 18 builds in the process for me, and every single time that's what I focus on with an insatiable and unrelenting passion and energy to find the truth. And number 3, and if you don't hear anything else I said, take time for yourself. We as women don't. We're taking care of the kids. We're taking care of the faucet that just went down. We're taking care of the car tire that needs to be changed out. Everything else comes before ourselves because we just think we are little Energizer bunny and we can just get up and keep going. But we need time for ourselves too. So take time. I'm going to take time, and I expect you to take time. And I'm going to end with where we started, and that's to elevate and give gratitude where gratitude should be placed, and that's with Grace Hopper. Grace Hopper in 1944, against all odds, created what became Mark I, what then became the compiler, and also came up, of course, with bugs and debugging language. She had the intellectual capability to do it. She had the passion and the unrelenting pursuit to come through all of the fires she must have come through in 1944 with direct microaggressions, people saying things about her, who does she think she is, all the stuff we've all dealt with. And you know I'm right. And also direct aggressions that kept her out of meetings, kept her away from really getting the technical insight. She had to figure out a way to do it herself without the internet. In 1944, she did it. She kept going to make something happen that would truly change the world that we know today. And what I'm challenging you with is you have to have the same pursuit. You have to have the same passion, and you have to have the same ability to see the vision long before you start with your doubting quotes in your head. And I've got them too. But we can do it, and you can do it. And if Grace Hopper could do it in 1944, then it is absolutely within our reach. And I'll even go so far to say it's more than within our reach. It is our responsibility. Given the data I shared, we're getting more outcomes than our peers. We've got the whole entire world around consumer spend and the trillions I talked about that is sitting right in front of us. And not only do we create the most accretive businesses, we do. The data says it. But as we do that, the data also says that we take into account humanity, and we make sure that we're focused on cleaning up the water and creating better education for our children. That's what we as women do. It's in the data. So please step into position. Make sure people know what you are intending to do. Grace is expecting it from you. I'm expecting it from you. And the fact of the matter is, I know that we all as women can do that. There's nothing stopping us. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope that if you ever get in a place where you do that self-doubting that I do too, that you just think about what I said or call me, because I will get you back on track, and you will be fierce and an amazing business builder, and you will bring to the world what we really need and miss today to solve some of the challenges that we face.